Who won in court but lost in the court of public opinion? Richard Jewell, the man falsely accused of the Centennial Olympic Park bombings in Atlanta in 1996. He was a security guard and saved dozens of lives by spotting the bomb and clearing spectators. The FBI noted him as a person of interest, and his name was dragged through the mud by local and national media. While the FBI stopped investigating Jewell by October of that year, it wasn't until a couple of years later that his name was truly cleared when Eric Rudolph, the actual bomber, was caught. Jewell sued a number of media outlets and settled with a few of them for an undisclosed amount. Jennifer Connell was called the worst aunt ever and the aunt from hell for suing her nephew. Her nephew basically jumped into her arms and the extra physical affection broke her arm. Became a really big deal when it happened. Thing is, she needed to name a person at fault for her injury for her insurance and named her nephew with his parents' permission. She wasn't actually suing her nephew, just getting insurance money so she could be treated. Recommend. I hate this type of story on the news because it's never accurate. I worked as a legal assistant at a law firm that represented defendants in this sort of lawsuit. In most of these cases, the person suing has nothing to do with it other than being named on the lawsuit and having to give a deposition. Their insurance company is suing for reimbursement for medical expenses. In these cases, the injured person doesn't have any choice in the matter and doesn't actually see money. It goes to the insurance company. Instead, they spend a few months or years of their life missing work for depositions, court appearances, and meetings with lawyers on top of recovery for their injuries. In many cases, the person being sued is in the same boat, with their insurance company providing the lawyer and paying out if they lose. It's a messed up system, and I left burnt out because no one is winning but the insurance company and lawyers. In 1980, Lindy Chamberlain Creighton was charged for the murdered death of her daughter, Azaria Chamberlain. They had been camping in the Australian bush when the baby disappeared. She claimed a dingo had taken her child, but the public thought that was preposterous. Despite locals who regularly camped in the area and indigenous people that lived there, saying there were many dingo lairs nearby and that the creatures were extremely dangerous, they did little to no follow-up, and she was convicted because the public thought she behaved weirdly after the baby's death by doing things like smiling at a pleasant memory during the memorial. Not only that, she became a laughingstock around the world with the term, "The dingo ate my baby," making it into shows as big as Seinfeld at the time. Years later, they found a dingo lair with scraps of Azaria's clothes, because shockingly, the people who live and regularly camp in the area actually know more than the police and general public, and were correct. She was released from prison, and her name was cleared, but she'll have to live the rest of her life knowing her baby was taken from her, and the world treated her like a murderous clown. This, and the McDonald's hot coffee lawsuit, are a major lesson in how nobody should ever take what the media says about a case at face value. Recommend. The way Stella Liebeck, the woman who was the plaintiff in the McDonald's coffee case, was treated in an incredibly shameful manner by the national media. We wonder why corporations have all the power in America. There's why in a nutshell. They completely controlled the narrative outside of the lawsuit. The woman who won a damages settlement from McDonald's for being burned by overly hot coffee. It was dangerously hot, and they'd been warned before, and paid medical bills by court order over other burns. But because she got a high payout over something as seemingly trivial as coffee, she's labeled litigious and dramatic. The burns were awful. And by the way, McDonald's still has coffee that's dangerously hot. They were in the news a week or two ago for another burn case. Recommend. Not just that McDonald's PR team went into overdrive to discredit her, having PIs following her, harassing her at work and home, keeping her under constant surveillance, blasting her in faked news releases when it was harder to fact-check sources. I believe she settled because she's starting thinking pretty seriously she might get killed by accident. There's a documentary about the events that came out 3 years ago. It's fascinating. She couldn't find work for years after, and mysterious references would reveal additional information to potential employers that get her blacklisted. Oh, and the coffee was so hot, it fused her 2 legs together. I've unfortunately seen the pics, and that lady clearly was not exaggerating or lying about any of her claims. McDonald's corporate forces owners to keep coffee at volcano levels so that it'd still be hot, no matter how long after ordering you consume it. Solid, fault-proof logic, eh? 'Cause we all make the detour for McDonald's to sample their precious coffee, eh? What the fuck, corporate America? The dingo took my baby woman, which turned out to be true as well. Recomment. Lindy Chamberlain didn't win in court at first. She was falsely convicted of her daughter Azaria's murder and spent 3 years in prison over it. She got dragged over the coals hard by the media, to the point where they were saying that Azaria's name had something to do with sacrifices in the wilderness. As an Australian, I can take a joke, but on some degree, I can't deny it. It infuriates me that this case has become a stereotype. Like it's a real thing that happened. A woman's baby was taken into the dead of night and eaten by a wild animal while they were out camping. And then she had to serve years in prison because, thanks to the media and tabloids, everyone thought she was some weird religious freak who murdered her daughter in a ritual sacrifice. They only even found out she was innocent because some British guy fell to his death and happened to be in the general area next to the crucial piece of missing evidence, Azaria's bloody jacket. Mason Greenwood. 19-year-old raped his girlfriend, and audio of it was leaked. After 18 months, the case was dropped, and he was shipped off to play for a Spanish club. Recomment. The audio is bad too, really bad. Her parents also pressured her afterwards to let it go and refused to be a witness if it went to court. She's expecting his kid now, I believe. Really sad case. It's mixed for sure, but Michael Jackson went to court twice and was found not guilty, but he'll always be the butt of child molester or pedophile jokes. Recomment. MJ is one where I changed my mind on the second go-around. For the first one where he quietly settled, I was sure he was guilty. For the criminal one where he stood trial, the mother came off as a complete grifter, and it even came out that the first victim had been coerced by a relative, so I was convinced he was actually innocent. It's still weird he liked to be around kids like that, but I think it's more likely he had Peter Pan syndrome. He just wanted to still be a little kid because his childhood had been robbed of him by his awful father. Kyle Rittenhouse, which is kind of a shame because, taken out of the political context, it was an interesting case in self-defense. It also shows that the public has no idea how laws work. I agree with the ruling. Recomment. It was also interesting to watch as a non-American. 'Cause where I'm from, the concept of self-defense is a lot narrower. The attack needs to be unjust, inevitable, and against a person, and the reaction needs to be proportional. Someone bringing a gun to a protest to protect property from looters could potentially not be able to claim self-defense since they knowingly sought the possibility of being attacked, so not inevitable, with the intention of defending property instead of a person, and with lethal force, not proportional. The video evidence might still save it for the defense. Once he found himself in that situation, claiming self-defense seems reasonable. But he made many choices that put him in that situation instead of avoiding the danger. So here it wouldn't have been so clear. The City of New London in Kilo Furet City of New London. The city was using the eminent domain to remove a nice lady from her home to build shopping complex. Made its way to the Supreme Court, and a 5 votes for decision won, and Kilo lost her home to provide economic opportunities. High-profile case where the public sided with Kello, but the court sided with the city.